Hello, welcome to the Money Talk. I'm Johnny.
And I am Theresa. And today we have with us Ed. He is an expert in the mortgage industry. And I would like to thank you so much for joining us on the Money Talk. How are you today, Ed?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. No complaints.
All right, Ed. Well, first of all, can you give us a little background on yourself and we'll start off from there?
All right. How far back do you want to go?
I'm sure you can go a long way.
Well, ouch, that hurt. Am I that old?
Me too.
No, let's say I grew up in California, on and off to Colorado and back as a kid, but joined the Navy to see the world, got to see San Diego. And that was pretty much it. And from that, I was able to get my bachelor's and master's when I was in the military, and then got out and did a few things and then kind of fell in the mortgage industry. And I've been in it ever since.
Wonderful. So, how long did you serve?
5 years, 5 months, and 14 days. But who was counting?
We'll never tell.
Well, it's just a weird number, so I have to say it that way. If it wasn't 6 years or
So, how did you fall into the mortgage industry?
Oh, because that's don't worry about it. It's not you're supposed to be normal, so just talk. Yeah, make mistakes. That's okay. Everybody does. That's how people know it's real and not edited, super edited, right?
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Actually, what happened was I was doing a lot with the military exchange systems because I was down in San Diego and stuff, and that whole thing was coming to the end. And my neighbor owned a mortgage company, and I talked to him, and he's like, "Come work for me." And I really like numbers, and I liked helping people get into homes, and because it changes your life, it changes the trajectory of that family going forward. If no one in that family's ever owned a home, once they own a home, then everybody thinks they can own a home.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and that's true. And because I think that's the home ownership is one of the biggest things you can probably do. So I agree with you on that, Ed.
Yeah, it's where actually most millionaires have made their money is in real estate, but you just got to get your first one to live in, and then you can, if you want to go further than that, go for it. But I'm just focused on getting you your first house, right? And then after that, people move up. But lately, because of where the interest rate has been, people aren't moving. They're staying in their homes. Only death, divorces, and job transfers are getting people to actually move out of their homes right now, so they could be sold. And even the job transfers, I read an article where they said that it's very difficult to hire people to come to new jobs, even no matter how much they give them, they aren't moving because of their interest rate.
Well, this morning I saw something on the Today Show where they were talking about people aren't moving. And so there are a shortage of houses because of the interest rate. But I have not heard that people are not moving because of better jobs.
Well, no, they're even to a better job. I mean, even
higher.
Yeah. And that's the problem. It's not that because people aren't moving, there's a shortage of homes. We haven't built enough homes, period. Over the last decade, if you look at, I'll just tell you California numbers because I know off the top of my head, we're supposed to build 250,000 homes a year just to keep up with population growth. We've built 120,000 each year for the last 10 years. And last year only built 70,000.
Wow.
You do that. And this is the same thing going nationwide. So in California, we're short about 2.7 million homes. I think nationwide, we're short like 17 million homes. It's ridiculous of numbers. And I'm telling everybody, if you have a house, if you own a home, go buy another one and don't sell the one you have, because for the next 25 years, these things are going to continue to go up because we can't get caught up.
Wow. So you're recommending keep your home and then buy another one.
Correct. Don't sell any real estate if you can. This inflation that we're in, everything that we're going through, it's probably going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Well, you know what, Ed, that sounds a little scary. And so, like, we got caught up in that 2008 housing boom.
Yeah, well, that's can I explain that? All right.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
So what happened back then is in 2006, we all had these programs, and people, you could buy a house for no money down, nothing, right? Nothing, right? No job, no nothing. Well, and this is going to get in the weeds a little bit, so bear with me. If you go back 30 years prior to that, because the average age of people buying homes, so go back 30 years, it was Roe versus Wade that came into place. And for the next decade, it plummeted birth rate. So coming 30 some years later, we're thinking all these people are coming to buy all these homes because we're building them and people are buying them, but people are buying 2 and 3 homes at the housing tract. And so they keep building and building and building. And then come to find out, we didn't need all those homes
Mhm.
because there was not those people coming of age as many as we thought that should have been there because of that thing that had happened over 30 years ago. Now, then it took us, what, 10 years to get through all that extra homes, right? They sold them. And then we didn't build any homes during that period of time because we had all these extra homes. Then we
Right.
saw all these homes and everybody's in them. And then they go, okay, we need to start building. But they're already 10 years behind on building. And now you keep adding. So it's going forward. It is just really scary for people who don't own homes, who are going to not be able to actually own a home. In California right now, only 44% of the population can own. So the exodus that we have out of California is people that are making $50,000 to $100,000 because you need to make $125,000 to $150,000 these days to actually afford a $400,000.
Wow. And you know, when you say exit out of California, I know we seen like a lot of California plates and stuff in Texas.
Is that where you are?
That's where we are.
Mhm.
And we've seen a lot that would come to Texas, and we're like, wow, a lot of California plates are here now. So that's the reason why.
But you're going to see a lot of them leaving.
Why is that?
Nothing wrong with Texas except for the humidity and the heat. The biggest what they don't. So everybody told them, go to Texas, buy a house. It'll save you money. It'll save this. You don't have certain taxes, but you guys' property taxes is brutal. Look at you guys. I mean, the problem with your guys is your property taxes doubles every 10 years. Ours doesn't. And we're in California and our values go up crazy. So whatever our value goes up a year, say it went up 100,000, we only get 3% of added that on. You guys get 10%.
Yeah.
You guys get, so that's 10 grand. I get 3 grand. It takes us 30 years for our taxes. It takes you guys 10. You guys are also 3% property tax rate and everything. So on 100,000, that's 3 grand, and 300,000, that's 9 grand for us. On 300,000, that it will only be $3,000.
But your houses are so expensive.
Yeah, they're in the
millions. Really? And you guys aren't?
Nothing compared to California.
No.
Our average price right now in our area where I'm at in California. So if we're not talking Bay Area and Bay Area elites and LA and those kind of things, but the normal places in California, it's about 400 to 500,000.
So I think the average home here is probably like 350 to get.
Probably was.
Well, now it's probably
about 400.
About 400.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but you're going up. But your tax base on 400 is 12,000, and is what is that, $12,000?
It's at least 12 to 13.
Yeah, at least 12 to 13.
Depending on where you are.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what happened with Austin, Texas, right? All these people bought all those Airbnbs, and they're like, okay, this is great. It's 250,000 for this house, and we can rent it out. We can do this. Now they're worth 500. Well, guess what? On rental properties, there is no max that you can go up that they can tax you off. So if they go up 250,000, you're now paying on 500,000, 3%. So now that's 15 grand a year in taxes. The other of 250.
Well, you just taught me something about Texas that I didn't know. I didn't know rental property. There was no cap on the taxes.
There isn't. No. These are things that people don't take into account, right? And then I went to AIT in San Antonio when I was in the Navy, and they have this thing called golf ball hell.
Yes.
Oh, yes, they do. Yeah.
So you guys' insurance rates are high.
Yeah.
So if you really factor in the numbers and work everything out, you had to make like 500 grand a year to move to Texas to make that move. And people didn't run the numbers. They just left.
And so later on, they're gonna get those tax bills. We're like, what?
We need to go back.
Because I already know people I knew that left there, built a beautiful home, sold it, and moved back.
Really?
Because of that. Yeah, they're like, we hate the politics of California, but we love our grandchildren more, and we want to see them.
Yeah.
But with everything, things change. Yeah. I feel we're all in the middle. Pretty much, we're all in the middle. One of us might be a little bit more this way or this way. Then you have those really extreme elites on the side, which is really only maybe 1% of the population. They're just really loud, and when we don't want to be around you. So instead of dealing with them, we walk away. And that's a problem. We got to stop walking away. We got to stop because we need to stop them from destroying it.
Right. That's true. Well,
sorry, I get a little political because I'm on talk radio, power talk there. So
well, that's okay. Bring it on, because I'm sure you're saying something that the listeners need to hear.
Well, I mean, California, we lost $24 million that they had for the homeless. Oh, we don't know where that money went. I do. It's in freaking Newsom's pockets.
24
Million?
million.
$1 million. Yeah. And then
And
so the last election, when they were actually recalling him, they're like, we have a balanced budget. We have a surplus of 68 million. The week after, oh, we made a mistake. We're negative 66 billion. You couldn't have recalled that guy if you wanted to, the amount of people. Yeah, we all voted correctly, but they were just, the problem is you have certain segments of California that have more people in them vote the wrong way. And also, they when Arnold Schwarzenegger was in, before he left, he was trying to keep Republicans in power. So he passed a quick bill thing that would, instead of saying the top two parties are only need to be on the ballot, he said the top two people. The problem in a lot of these areas, it's Democrat only, and the top two Democrats are on it. So the Republican can't get in to vote. They can't vote. So there's no reason to change what they're doing. And I'm not trying to knock the Democrats or Republicans. I'm just saying that just general how it is.
Well, bumping off of that, I do have a question for you. I just need you to help me understand. Like, why do you recommend, if you have a house now, buy another one?
I'm just saying, don't sell it if you're moving. Rent it, keep it and rent it, because the value, what we're going to see is you're going to see house values go down. There's no bubble coming. There's none of that kind of stuff. You can't have a bubble where you're short on homes. Listed right now nationwide, we have 500,000 homes nationwide listed. In 2015, we had 1 million. We are so short, even though we say you're going to see these skewed numbers. Mark Twain said there's lies, damn lies, and then statistics. And you're going to see these skewed numbers where they say, and the inventory's up 26%, 40% more than last year. That was so far down last year. It doesn't make sense. But where are we compared to where we usually are? And that's where we are. We're so far below that. We can't have a bubble when we don't have inventory.
But you're predicting that the housing prices are going to go down?
No, they're going to go up. They're going to go up.
Supply and demand issues.
Yeah.
Okay, so rent, if you have a house,
rent's up. I mean, everything's up right now. Because of this, how many Bidenomics is not working. It is. Bidenomics meant we're going to get more inflation and more other stuff. That's what it meant.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what it means.
Yeah.
So audience, so this is the key. If you have a home, what Ed is recommending is,
if you're moving,
rent it out.
Don't sell it.
Don't sell it. Just if you have to do a job transfer or whatever, a lot of people, when they move from California to a different state, I told them, do not sell your house until you've lived a year in that state that you're going to make sure you can handle it, or at least get there the worst time of the year. Texas summer, Chicago winter. You know what I mean? Those things that people like, oh, well, I'll be fine, and then like, oh, this really is horrible. Or some of those other places where you can't get off your porch. Because if you did, you'd have to wear all that deep and offset all those bugs, mosquitoes.
Yes.
I lived in Colorado as a kid. And so if you went to the lake, you get to the lake and you pull your car up and you look, and there's mosquitoes all on the wind waiting to get you. California, we don't have that issue.
We don't either.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, but not so bad to where it's like, I can't take it.
That sounds like Florida.
I'm just saying in general, Missouri, where people like, I can go save money and live here. Yes. But with everything you go to and do certain places, watch the shows on HGTV and watch those guys working outside. And they're like, oh, it's hot and humid. 80 and 80 is hot.
Yeah.
80. That's San Antonio. I mean, I was like, dang, this is really hot. My son went to boot camp in, not North Carolina. Yeah, it was, I think. And then we were there in the summer and it was 90 something out and it rained. Oh my, you couldn't even breathe. It was so.
Yeah, it sounded like South Carolina. Oh, that humidity.
And everything starts steaming up after the rain.
You can't breathe when you go outside. Now, do you still sell homes?
I only do mortgages.
Okay. So you're still doing that then?
Yeah, because that's I do. Even though I'm on radio and I do all the video stuff I do, and my book came out 2 Februarys ago. The whole purpose was to get the word out there so people could buy homes. That's just what I do. There's only one of me And I can only teach so many people, but putting a book out called, I don't know if you saw it, but it was called
Oh, yeah,
Financial
we
Freedom.
did.
Financial freedom, building personal wealth through home ownership. It just
Yes.
it goes to the way I actually qualify somebody. I look at the credit first, and this is what we need to do for credit. Like I just have one right now. 30 days ago, they weren't ready. I had her pay down some of her debts, and she went from 605 FICO score to a 680 FICO score. That's the difference between those two numbers is over a 1% difference in interest rate.
That's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge.
But
So-
when she paid off her debts, though, how long did it take for her FICO score to go up?
30 days. As soon as they reported.
Oh wow.
Oh, see, I thought it took longer than that.
30
Like
days.
I
It's as
thought,
soon as they report, you get your FICO score changes daily depending on what's on your balances or on your credit card, that kind of stuff. And we don't have enough time to really go through all credit things. But one thing, the most important thing is to keep the credit places want you to be at 10% of your limit to get the best FICO score off of that. You get the most from your on your FICO score points wise, the better score by how you utilize your credit cards. If you keep it at 10%, they love you. If I always say people can't really do that, so do 30% if you can. If you can't do that, then do 50% and just understand, the more you have on there, the more it takes away from your FICO score. The less you have on there, the more you get. And installment liens are totally different where they don't want you to pay those off early. If you pay those off early, you get dinged. That's those companies telling FICO people, hey, we don't want these paid off early. So if they do, ding them for.
Wow.
that don't even make sense to me.
Yeah, because you would think you want them to pay it off early because you get your money back. But hey,
No, I want interest.
yeah, there you go.
That's what it is. They want the interest. They don't care about anything else. They want the interest. And so I didn't know about that until after I wrote my book. Otherwise, that would have been it.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So
Okay, go ahead.
so Ed, where's your book?
Amazon,
Personal-
online, anywhere online. Yeah.
Anywhere online. Okay, so anywhere online. Financial Freedom, Building Personal Wealth Through Home Ownership. That's the name of Ed's book.
And
Okay.
if you can't find me because my name's Parcaut, P-A-R-C-A-U-T, you can just go getEdsBook.com. I'll take you right to my website where I have the book. You click on it and it takes you right to Amazon because nobody can ever spell
Yeah,
or say it right.
Challenging last name. But I have a juicy question for
Go
him.
ahead.
A lot of people don't want to close their credit cards because they say it will hurt their credit scores. Is
Correct.
that correct?
That is correct. If you cancel your credit cards, you lose all history that you have created on that transaction. I had a friend of mine. I was doing a refinance for her, and I'm like, you said you had an 800 FICO score. I do, and I know she had a 692 because she actually canceled one of her credit cards.
Well, it went down that much?
Yep, because you lose all history, everything. Like you never had that card. Installment loans are set up to be paid off over time. So when they eventually get paid off, if you do it the way they want you to do, which is every 60 payments or whatever you set up, you get credit from that. Credit cards, that's my biggest thing about what's his name, who tells everybody to cut up their credit cards and cancel them. I'm talking
My
about.
buddy, Dave Ramsey.
That my biggest complaint about him is that and everybody who teaches his university, because I had a few agents who are in there because they sneak into those things to try to get clients, and I'm like, the worst thing you can do is tell somebody to pay off to cut up their credit card and cancel it just because because then you lose all the history and then you have to go what we call manual underwrite. And they were like, so we have a company that'll do it. I know. But when you do that, you limit it to 1% of all the companies out there that could do a mortgage for you. There's only 1% of them that will do a manual, where we all do automated underwrite. Yeah. So don't ever cancel your credit cards. Keep them.
Okay.
And use them occasionally. Like if you have, 5 credit cards, put gas on one month, gas on another one. Don't pay it completely off. Pay most of it and then just pay a little bit each month, $5, $10 to get rid of it. I'm just saying, if you're good at using your credit properly and you don't want them and you're told by the guru to cut them up, don't. Just utilize it right. However, there are people who can't have alcohol, right? So there's going to be some people who can't have credit at all because they'll abuse it. Those people are totally the unique situations, but the majority of us can actually control ourselves sometimes.
Well, and you
right.
done stumped me for a while. Because
Because
we are like avid Dave Ramsey followers. And so
There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, it kind of is because they don't really teach. And I'm also a Ramsey Preferred Financial Coach. So I'm like, well, cut up your credit card, cut up your credit card. And then one of my clients, potential clients, he was like, well, won't that ding my credit? And I'm like, well, it won't be that big of a deal. But I didn't know it was this big of a deal.
Well, they don't tell you that. Here's the difference. Cut them up.
Yeah, see, we like cancel.
I know you want, because you want total control, total buy-in, and down the road. Well, you're just okay. Why are you doing this? To get rid of my debt? Well, you might as well go bankrupt. I understand his precedent, what he's trying to do, but I also like the fact that he did say, "Go buy a damn house." Excuse my language. Now, he said that last year. We've been using that clip forever. He's finally saying, instead of save, have this, and save enough to pay cash. Okay, Dave Ramsey, this isn't 10, 20 years ago when you paid cash for your place when it was so much cheaper and you were on the radio getting those. This is where average people who make 75,000 to 80,000 will take them a lifetime to save enough money to pay cash for them, unless they're in some place like, some little bone town in Missouri or something, and the houses are. And again, he has a lot of good things, but it's not for everybody, right? I mean, I loved Tony Robbins when I was younger, and it was Awakening the Giant Within and all those things. But now he came to one of the things I was at, and we're all saying, okay, close your eye, breathe in through your heart. You can't breathe in through your heart. That's what I'm thinking in my head, I'm a corpsman out of the Navy. I was a medic. I'm like, that's not how that works. I'm like, instead of doing what he's saying, I'm like, why don't you just say breathe in through your lungs into your, just the whole, I was like, I can never do it anymore. That's just not how that works. And since I brought this up, I'm a veteran, and I focus mainly on veterans. I help everybody, but that's my big push, is my niche is veterans like myself. This last weekend, we did a 2-day event for veterans to help people with their PTSD. I'm sorry, I have my American Bully in here. I hope you can't hear him snoring so much. Or he's whining. I think he's whining because his mom left him.
I don't hear a thing.
We don't hear nothing.
All right, then I'll keep going. But anyway, we did a 2-day event for veterans, and we had Dave Sanderson come in, who is the last guy who got off the plane on the Hudson, right? He was
the one that went onto the river.
Yeah, the one that went in the river, and he was the last guy out helping people out and getting people out. And he talked, and then we had Dave Albin, who is a firewalk guy, come out, and then we did a firewalk for the. And I got to say, it was a huge change in everybody, and it was amazing what we did. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that's what we do, is what I focus on them, but I also focus on business owners and people who, sorry, trying to stop him from whining because he's bothering me.
It's okay.
But I also, the other place, like people with issues is reverse mortgages. I do them for elderly, people who get their dignity back. And again, that doesn't work for everybody. Just like Dave Ramsey doesn't work for everybody, right? Yeah. But he does have some good things, like don't go crazy on your credit card, pay them down.
Okay, so like my last credit card question. So if
you can have more, I don't care. You're interviewing me. This is your event. So how many you want? Go for it.
That sounds fair. So with the credit card, if you pay it off, you're good. Just don't cancel it.
Right, but you still have to utilize it, or you don't get credit for it again.
But if you don't use it, it won't hurt your credit, will it?
Yeah, because then it'll show inactive.
Yeah. So what Ed is saying is, what I'm getting to understand is, if you have a credit card, you don't have to keep a high balance on it, but you use your credit card.
Put gas on it one day, pay it off.
Pay it off, right? So if you use it, pay it off.
Or just keep, don't pay it completely off. Leave $5 on it or $10 on it, pay it off the next. Just keep a little balance.
So that way it won't impact your
credit score. Well, I have to tell you that message alone is just like powerful. So now I will definitely think twice. Well, actually, I'm probably not going to ever tell anybody again to close their credit card because cancel it, because I wouldn't want to hurt anybody's credit score, especially if they had a good score.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they're going to have if they have high balances, they're going to have a score because of that. You can in 2006, I lost everything because of the whole market, and I had to unfortunately go bankrupt, and I never talked about it until I did my book. And I rebuilt my credit by using secure credit cards and everything else. And I had a 780 FICO score after a couple of years. You can get it back, but what's the goal of doing this? Is this goal that you're trying to help people so they can get financially fit, so they can go maybe buy a house and live with their family, right? Well, why make it to where they can't get a loan then?
Right.
Well, I would what I would tell you to tell them is, all right, the program we're in, Dave Ramsey tells us to tell you to go ahead and cut them up and cancel them all. But if you're long-term looking at this, you might not want to completely do that. Yeah. And if you want, I'll send you some of my books. And you can open up first chapter. This is why.
Thank you.
I don't do stuff in Texas, so I'm not looking for business. I'm just looking to help. So.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Yeah, we're looking to help.
Yes, and that's our whole goal, to try to help. That's it. Helping people, right?
Right.
So that brings up another question for me is, since we're on this path, how do you define financial freedom? How do you define that?
Well, it's like being successful. You have to define that for yourself, right? At one point in my life, it was to where I didn't have to work. Even though I was working, but I had enough money to put it back aside that I didn't have to work for 5 or 10 years when I was younger. But that's not a reason to quit, you know? And I mean, you need more than $1 million to retire. And the question is, are you going to retire? Because you don't want to save and do nothing, because then by the time you get to a certain age, then you might not be there with your spouse. One of you might be gone. So you still need to, more people since the pandemic have said, you know what, I need to spend more time doing other things besides just working. And so it's it's whatever that balance looks like for you. You don't go with what the neighbor's doing or somebody across the street is doing. You have to do figure out for yourself, and don't worry what other people. And that's really hard for us because we all look at social media, we look at everything else. Well, get on iHeartRadio, Power Talk 1360, like I am. And after a while, you get to a point where you just don't. And that's what you have to get, because you're going to have haters.
Right. And that's the truth. And you know what? I mean, what you said is absolutely true. It all depends on how you define financial freedom for yourself. Right. And one of the things that, and I meant to ask you this before I moved to that, but one of the things that you said earlier was reference to a reverse mortgage. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because with a reverse mortgage, I know some people kind of look at like, what, reverse mortgage? Why would I do that? But
you'd only do that if you're 62 or older and you are having trouble making in a lot of stuff. I have a lady, but I'm going to go back to what were you asking me about before we went to this question?
Financial freedom.
Well, yeah. Okay. So for me, or for most people, would be having no credit card debt and maybe just a mortgage, right? And then your car, and then car payment if you're going to do that. I would like my car paid off, right? That's just me. I don't want to have to worry about that. And, and so, but not having debt, credit card debt or credit card debt you can manage, that it's actually helping you, not hurting you. So that's the only thing I would say on that, is just not have the credit card debt, because if you don't have credit card debt, the money you make, you can save more.
Absolutely.
Right? And I have helped even people with really low rates on their homes have come to me in the last year or so. And I looked at their numbers and they have, $60,000-$70,000 in credit card debt. And then, right. If I refinance them into a new loan, that payment does go up, but that savings of the $2,000 they're going to save a month, they could take $1,000 of that and apply it towards their principal and still have an extra $1,000 and pay that house off in like 17 years or 15 years. So there's many ways to make these changes to worth what you want once you get rid, what I mean? So yeah, a lot of us are against, doing that, but it can save a huge difference for people who are struggling, right? Because they didn't, I didn't think I would lose, interest rates would go up 5% in 6 months. I've been through some really bad times in the mortgage industry over the last 20 some years. Okay. 27 years. And this is worse than any of those, because there's only 35% of the population, 35% of existing home sales on the market. Death, divorces, and job transfers, like we talked about. And out of that, a third of them are all cash, and and then 26% are being picked up by investors.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is something else.
So really and truly, if you're a first-time home buyer, you may have a little challenge.
You're going to have a huge challenge, because who has the house that you want? A baby boomer who's not moving.
So talking on that point, what do individuals need to have in place before they even come to you for a mortgage?
Well, we need to check their. So what I do is I tell them, everybody asks, when is the best time to buy? I'll get you a reverse mortgage question
Yeah,
before
you
that.
got
Don't
it.
worry
You
about
got
that.
it.
Don't
You
worry
got
about that. When people ask me when's the best time to buy it, the moment you think about it is the best time to look into buying. Don't wait. So get with somebody like me, have us look at your credit, and then or somebody like you, and you could, because you guys could do the same thing and go, okay, what's your credit like? Okay, we got to help you get this paid off, but let's not ruin your credit at the same time. It might take a little bit longer. We'll cut them up so you don't use them, but then once they're paid off, you can start using them again. And then so we look at the credit first. Once that's in place, then we look at the income, because if you maybe you need to get a better job, right? With the if you leave the job you have to another job, you normally go up 12% in pay. If you stay where you are, ask for a raise, you might get 7%. So I look at those kind of things, see where their job is, see where their credit is, and then I look at to see what they have for down payment. I don't know how it is with you, but I deal with a lot with veterans. We don't have to put any money down because we signed on the line. But you have FHA, which is only 3.5% down. 3.5% down is $3,500 for every 100 grand. So on a $300,000 home, you're looking at about $12,000. And yeah, I'm not going to be exact on those numbers. It's probably like 10, but I'm just guessing right now. So the real thing you want to look at is what do you have for a down payment, or how can you get the down payment from your family or somebody else? Because I tell people, if you can't afford the house yourself and you don't have the down payment, talk to your parents. Do an equity share. Tell them, hey, if you help us buy this, we'll split the equity until I can refinance and get you out of this.
Oh, I've never heard of that. Can you explain that one more time, Ed?
So we're, parents. Oh, and I got one more thing parents can do. So if say that you want to buy a house as a kid and a kid meaning 22, 23 years old, and you don't have money for down payment, or even 25 or 26, if you go to your parents and say, hey, can you give me, gift me money for my down payment? Even though you're not on the mortgage with me, we'll agree that until I pay you off, you earn half of the equity of the house that is being that I'm in. So in 2 years from now, if I refinance you, or a year from now, whatever that equity is, I'm going to give you as a thanks on time for giving me the money for the down payment.
Oh, that's a neat way then for the younger generation to get into a home. I've never heard of that before.
Me either. Never heard of that. Equity share. Okay.
Well, it's just you're saying, hey, let's share this. I'll give you your down payment back, but I also want to give you half of the equity on top of that, because you've helped me. No one ever thought of it. It's like, make it beneficial for the person helping you too. A lot of people will go, okay, and then when it's time, they're like, don't worry about it. Right. I mean, the parents are probably going to say, just refinance it, for yourself. Don't worry about getting us any money. We don't need it. The other thing that is, as a parent, you can do for your kids who are younger, who don't have credit yet, like you didn't teach them, hey, go get a credit card, use it like this. You can add them on your credit cards as authorized user, probably for about another 10 months before all the FICO stuff changes. They'll get the credit as an authorized user that you have built on that card.
Okay.
So you can go from 0 to, now be an authorized user and go get one of your own cards. And now you have a 700 FICO score. We taught my son before he joined the Navy. That's what I did before he joined the Army. Sorry. It's one of those days.
He's a good guy.
Before he had, so when he went up to his first duty station up in Alaska, and he's like, and his staff sergeant says, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna go buy a car. And he's like, oh, is your parents co-sign? He goes, no, I have a 740 FICO score, 19.
And you helped him do that by
we just told him how to do it. He got a credit card right before he was 18, and then he utilized it right. But our other two kids didn't, but that's beside the point. Not everybody listens. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Right. I gave him my book on when he came from Alaska down to Washington, because he's in the military, he was able to buy a house. I gave him my book to read. Luckily my daughter-in-law read it, but he didn't. And it would teach you everything about what you need to know while you're doing it. Well, we helped him. I advised him on how to get the house, and he bought his first home at 21.
See, that's amazing. So you're definitely teaching financial literacy.
Yes.
And so now that you have your book out, people need to buy the book so that they can get a better understanding.
Yeah. Yes. And then leave a review. But I give it to all my clients that I work with. I give it to agents to hand out, because it's if you ever write a book and you put it's not a money maker, it's about getting the knowledge out.
And you mentioned like jobs when people are applying for mortgages. Is there a certain amount of time that you need to be employed at one place before you can get approved for a mortgage?
No, that's the misconception. People hear 2 years. They're talking about 2 years of employment, not 2 years at the same company.
Okay.
but I was a cook. I was a cook at this company, and then I became a administration at this place. Was that general labor? Then it's the same. It doesn't have to be the same. Like the only time it has to be the same job is like if you you're a car salesman and you make a commission, then you have to have 2 years of that in order to show how much you're going to make, and you're going to make on commission the same amount. But if you're salary or hourly, we just need to see 2 years of history of having worked.
Okay, so
Okay, that
that's
makes
good.
sense.
And then
That makes
at
sense.
any
If you're
point,
if you're a
Go ahead.
nurse or something like that, when you get out of school, you can buy a house right away because that is your work history by going to school to be a nurse.
Well, we never heard of
Yeah,
that
never heard
before
that one
either.
either.
Is it specifically for nurses, or
No,
is
it's just anybody that the degree is only for what you're going to do. And some people go, well, I got a management degree and, bachelor's. It doesn't work. It's got to be like for that particular.
So it's more like specialization type job.
Yeah. So that's what we look at. So school teachers, those kind of people because they went to school to be a school teacher, right?
Right.
Those kind of things.
And I have
Yeah.
never heard of that before.
Me either.
Well,
Never.
everybody thinks it's a 2-year history and you have to be in that job for 2 years. It's not. People listen and pick little things out. Stop listening to the internet. Don't go Google anything unless you go to my, YouTube channel, 𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐿. Then you can go check and see all the different videos because I have a ton of videos out there. And also I'm on TikTok.
Okay. And then is there any point that you recommend a 15-year versus a 30-year mortgage?
Yeah, when these rates drop.
Then you'll
So
say
during the pandemic, we were taking everybody from 26 years to 20 or 15, and their payment was like $5 different. When you go from a 30 to a 15-year, say at the same time, like you're looking at both of them right now, that could be $600 to $1,000 difference in a.
That's huge.
Yeah, but you can do this, which is whatever. Say your payment, I know it's going to be more than. Say it's just easier for me right now. $1,200. Divide it by 12 and make that extra portion every month towards principal. And you're going to do the same as doing those bi-weekly ones where, people give their money to that company, they hold on to it for a period of time, and then they make the payment for you. You can do it yourself. This way, if for some reason, hey, someone passed away this month, I needed the money. You have some major challenge, you can just go, I'm not paying that extra portion this month, but I'll pick it back up next month. If you're in those bi-weekly things, you're stuck in them. And you're making an extra payment a year the hard way.
Because you have to. And
well, you have to, but you make an extra half a payment every 6 months, where I'm having you pay a little bit. It's easier. Okay. And people go, how do you do that? Well, when you go in to make your payment, down it says towards principal. It says right on the little thing when you do your statement and when you go online. So you have to go online each month to do it. Or if you had an automatic payment, you can always go in there and apply more to principal every month by just logging in.
That would be better than locking yourself into it.
Well, this way it'll take you down from a 30-year to about a 21 to 22-year loan.
And see, to me, that's magnificent. Also, just by doing that, how much interest you shave off and how many years you shave off. That's a big deal.
Right. But in today's world, people are going to be refinancing about every year going forward because the rates will eventually go down. But they're not going to go fast, but they're going to go down slow, and they're going to have to, understand that. So it's right now for the next probably 5 years. Don't worry about paying extra to pay down your loan if you have a higher interest rate because you just bought a home in the last year or so.
Interest rate so high.
Well, are they so high, or are they just higher than what people were used to?
Well, maybe they're higher than what people are used to.
Because if you go historically, our historical rates are 6% to 7%. Even if you look in 2009, 10, they're high. They were higher then. It's just we were in a pandemic. We thought we were going to die, and that's why rates went as they were. We didn't think we were going to live. People thought it was the end of the world to a certain point.
Right.
Right. And that's why the rates were there. So we're never going to go back to that. Prior to that, the lowest I ever seen our interest rate was 3.25%, and that was VA. So really, it was close to that, but that was during some other time. So we'll get like 4.5%, 5%, which is a great rate. That means the economy is doing well still, and other things are happening, but we don't have that major inflation that we have right now. The inflation is great for people who own homes, horrible for people who are trying to buy homes and renters.
Yes. And that's evident. You see it in the price of the home and also in the price of the rent. So
Yeah. And rents are going up. I mean, if you look at the rents and everything, in California, they put in rent control. You know what it did? It caused the landlord having to raise their rents 8 to 10% every year on the clients.
Oh, so what? They do that once they move in?
Well, no. So with the, you know, how government gets involved and the unintended consequences of government getting involved and not understanding what they're doing. They did in the mortgage industry in 2008. They did all this stuff that we didn't need to do. Well, they got involved and says, okay, this is what we're going to do. Well, if you're an institution, you can't raise your, you know, rent on somebody that you didn't raise rent on for years. When you move out, you have to say, you know, there's these certain factors. So what they did is they said, okay, well then, to offset that, every landlord going, okay, I have to raise every year on a good tenant the rent, period, 10% in order to stay compliant with that. Where before, people, if you had a good tenant, you never raise the rent. You're like, hey, stay there. You're good. You're not going to, because it's going to cost me to find a new one. Now, it just helped the landlords.
Poor tenants. That 10% in my mind is a lot.
It is
well,
a lot.
on 12, that's $100 on $1,200.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot.
120 actually. But anyway.
Yeah.
And but the average rents are like $2,000 now. I mean, in where I am, you're talking $3,000 a month.
That's a lot, and that's probably not living in this elegant place with a guard at the gate.
Nope. When I moved from San Diego back up here, like in 2002, down there rents were $3,500, and up here rents were $1,500. Now rents down there are, you know, $6,000 and $10,000 a month.
Good, they make good money. That's a lot of money.
We hope, or there's just a bunch of them in a house.
That could be the case too.
So this going to be the question then, because this is the question since you said that, because most of the young people, you know, are renting apartments, or maybe they're young people, their first time home buying, or whatever the case may be. What is your advice to young professionals on how to achieve financial freedom? What is your advice to them?
What do you mean by young professionals?
Young professionals, like you have somebody that's come out of college, and they're starting their career, so they're young in their career.
How much student loan do they have, debt?
Well,
let's give them 50,000.
Let's give them 50.
Well, I'm getting at is I was trying to help a lady, and she has 140,000 in student loan debt.
Oh,
and the worst part is she's a massage therapist.
Huh?
It will take her
she'll never pay that off. And she's older. So I was like, I never asked her whose it was, but I assume it's a kid. But I mean, these people go to school, and they have a ridiculous amount of debt that they'll never pay off. And it's, you know, because they don't know what to do. Well, you don't need to go into trades. So when you say professional, I would say, don't be a professional. Go get into trades. Those guys, electricians, the shortage of electricians right now, you're going to make 120 to start a year.
Now that give me goosebumps, because we are so hung up in America with going to get that college degree
until the 4-year degree.
And the trade,
you don't need it. You can do that when you buy your company. When you start your own company, then you can go back to school, get your degree when you're. But right now we're short 650,000 trades nationwide.
Listening that they see that they can go get a trade, make more money, and not have student.
Because everybody that's in that industry is late 40s, early.
And eventually they're going to be.
Yeah, because they're done. They're on the other side. It's there was a South Park episode where all the tradesmen were driving around in their super fancy cars, and they're living in their mansions because nobody knows how to do trades, and they can charge anything and everything they want. And it was just and that's basically just like the old movie in the 80s, Money Pit, where those guys would come up with their cars and everything. That's where it's going to be. It's like people don't know how to do anything anymore, and you're going to have to hire somebody, but there's not enough of them. So how much are you going to pay for this plumber to show up? How much are you going to pay for that plumber to show up? There's just not enough of them.
That's true. And so, well, if we have someone that just graduated from college, we'll give them $50,000 a student loan debt. Can you?
And what do they make? What are they making, and where are they living?
We're going to say they're making $85,000 a year. They have $50,000 in student loan, and maybe they are renting like a studio apartment here in Texas.
What's your so basically go get married to a nurse.
And why do you say that?
Because nurses make a lot of money.
And then they marry this nurse.
So it's different in every state. Like in California, the average nurse starts off 120 to 150,000 right out of school. In other states, it's not that way. But we sent our one daughter to, I forget the name of the school, but it was back east because same thing. There weren't a lot of people going to that school because you don't make as much as you do in California and other states. They actually asked my wife to go from here to Colorado in Kaiser. She works for Kaiser. It would have cut her salary in half because of the difference. Yeah. But still nurses make really good money. So 85,000 is a good number in certain places, but you're only going to be able to afford a $225,000 house.
And that's hard to get here.
Yeah, it's hard to get here.
Yeah. And well, you just have to go way out in the middle of nowhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, way out.
And most young adults,
you're going to need two incomes. So so if you have to buy a $400,000 house these days, you got to make $125,000 just to be able to qualify for that at the max DTI and all that stuff, debt to income ratios.
Well, I'm telling you, for these young people,
here's what you do. So Fannie Mae came out with a program. So in my book, I talk about how I help a couple buy a duplex a block from the beach in San Clemente, which is a really nice place. And they sold their two houses up here because during the 2006, they ended up buying a house and short selling one, right? And then they bought another house, and they made about $100,000 on selling these two houses, and they bought this duplex by the beach down in San Clemente for it was $950,000, and they put money down and ended up having a loan for $800,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but they were able to rent the one side for almost $5,000 a month. So what I'm getting at is Fannie Mae has a program now. That was FHA, which is 3.5% down. Fannie Mae has a program now. If you duplex, triplex, fourplex, you're going to live in one of them, it's 5% down.
Okay, that's a good idea.
So you help your kids get into one of those. They have the one unit, and you have those other 3 units or 2 units to offset the rent. Some of those in certain places are 400,000, 500,000, but the rents might offset those numbers. That's what you have to see and work out. But it's only 5% down. I would tell everybody as a kid that age, go buy that first. Set up your investment property, then go buy that house with the white picket fence once you get married with all the kids and everything.
That's a great idea. Because you don't really even have to sell that. You just keep it for an investment property.
Yeah, well, if you go to buy a fourplex, 1 to 4, 4 units as an investment, that's 25% down. But you can have your kid move in, with your kid, help them out, and it's only 5%.
Secrets.
Yes,
I'm like, we need the book.
Yeah, we definitely need the book.
Yeah, I didn't know all this stuff, and then we're not in the mortgage industry either. We just are home buyers. So all of this information that you shared with us, I wasn't aware.
Well, I also was recently tested because I was looking at different things because I do a lot of podcasting and a lot of stuff. And I was looking and somebody approached me about a couple jobs and stuff, maybe getting out of my industry. And I got tested and I found out I can come up with the idea and I can sell you on the, which is only 15% of the population can do that. Most people can come up with the idea, but they can't sell it, or they can sell it and they can't come up with the idea. I'm different. So I look at things totally different than other people, and then I'm able to sell everybody on how to do it. So I come up with certain things that other people don't think about, or there's a few of us out there, but that's the problem with our industry is the knowledge is locked up in certain people. And that's why I wrote the book.
Well, we're going to have to get this book.
Yeah, we have to get the book. So Ed, we want to thank you.
Hold on, I didn't finish the other thing. So reverse mortgage.
Oh, yes. That's right. Yes.
All right. So I have a lady who is 65. So you have to be 62 or older.
Okay.
Her house is almost free and clear. What it will do though is allow her not to have a mortgage payment for the rest of her life. All she has to do is pay taxes and insurance by getting a reverse mortgage. But you have to have enough equity to do it. And the reason people do this is she's got about $500,000 in her retirement account, which from where you are, that's not enough money to live off of for the rest of your life. And she's going through it really fast. And her financial advisor was like, you got to stop. Well, I got to pay my house. I got to pay this. Well, go get a reverse mortgage. And then you get rid of that mortgage payment and you only have the taxes. So it's more involved than that. I also have it on my YouTube channel, the questions and reverse mortgage. And again, it's a great program for the right people. If you have somebody who is getting only Social Security at $1,700 a month or $1,200 a month, and their mortgage payment is $900, they're not gonna last very long with that.
Okay, so with the reverse mortgage, if someone does that and when they pass away, then what happens to the heirs? Do you have to, how does that work?
You have a year after they pass away to get rid of the house, either sell it or refinance and take it over. The only time in history where we had a problem was in 2006 when the market crashed. People were passing away and the house came due and they owed more on it. Well, none of the family just goes, I don't want anything to do with it. That's all you have to say. You don't have to touch it. But if you look where we are now, the average values of homes going up is right now nationwide about 6%. So, and the interest rates on those are adjustables, and those adjustables are about 6 to 6.625, maybe almost 7%. So what I'm getting at is you're adding on. So you know how you normally make a payment and you pay down principal every month.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is you're actually not doing that. You're not adding principal. You're not paying anything now. You're adding interest onto the loan. So the loan increases instead of decreasing. So over time, you're going to add to it. But if it's at a 6% or 7% interest rate, well, if you have the house value going up at about the same value at 7%, you're going to stay where you're going to still have a bunch of equity still in there. Okay. Are you following what I'm getting with that? So, so you're going to still in 20 years from now, you're going to still have equity that's in the house because the house has appreciated so much over the 20 years. And what I'm seeing going forward, this is my own opinion, for educational purposes. The fact that I see that over the next 25 years, values just continually go up to a fact because we just aren't building enough homes. So until they get these factories online to build these houses, 24 hours a day in these factories, they're called modular homes. It's just like a regular house, but it's built in a factory and they ship it out on site and they build it up on site that way. Until that gets going to a point where we can do, so many homes a week and that kind of stuff because of these factories are going, we're never going to catch up. So we've got 20 years of this. So I tell people, don't worry. And also most kids go, we want our mom or dad to live the rest of their life very comfortable. We don't really care about the house. And this is my own opinion. If you got a kid who really wants your house so bad and they care about it that much, you got a bad kid. Take them out of the will anyway.
I didn't think of that. But if you do have that bad kid and they want to refinance the house,
do
you refinance? They can't?
They can.
They can.
Okay, so what would they refinance? The amount
the amount of the reverse mortgage that had increased. So when whatever that number is at the end. So if you started off with say 250,000 is what the reverse mortgage was, and over 20 years it went up to 500,000. Just say that, right? Because you're adding the interest on it every month instead of paying it down. Well, what are you selling the house for? 700. If the house is worth 600, there's still 100,000 in equity. And your parent was able to survive for the rest of their life in a very comfortable way and stay in the house. Right now, baby boomers are not moving. They're saying, I'm staying here until, I'm out of here. And because they have low interest rates, low this, but a lot of them didn't save enough or, since 2006, a lot of people's 401ks, 403bs, all those things got eaten up during that time where that was a horrible time, and they used it for the wrong things or to survive on. They don't have the retirement that they should have. And a lot of people come to me about it and say, I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to rent and live off my money. The problem with that is, all right, what's your average rent? Let's say it's $1,500. Your year at $650. That's a different place. But say that you sell your house and you get 150,000 out of it, right? Divide 150,000 by 650, and how many years are going to be able to live off that money?
Not long.
Not many years.
It's not long at all.
What did I say? 1,500, right?
You said 1,500.
1,500.
Yeah, that's 100 months. That's not even 10 years.
That's not long.
So, but if they do a reverse mortgage, all they have to do is pay their taxes and insurance, and they can stay there forever.
Well, that was some good information. And then can you tell everybody your podcast and your YouTube channel?
All right. So my name is 𝐿_. I'm 𝐿_. everywhere. Okay. LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere. Just got lucky. Have that unique last name. What was your other question? YouTube channel is 𝐿_. That's my YouTube channel. I have a radio show that I do, and it's also dropped on as a podcast on Monday. The radio show is called Real Estate Jerky. We give you something to chew on. We talk about real estate finance and the community. That gets put out there on Monday as a podcast. So we're live on 1360 iHeart. So you can actually listen to it live through the iHeart app if you wanted to, anywhere in the country, or you can just get it on Audible or anywhere you find your podcast at. by just looking up Real Estate Jerky. Then I also do a daily show Monday through Friday at 8:30 for about 20 minutes. We talk about current events, what's going on each week with my same co-host, and that's called Real Estate Jerky Daily. And then I have Inner Edison podcast, which is your greatest accomplishments comes from your greatest defeats. That's is a more of a entrepreneur podcast, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then I also have Helping the Brave, which is for us veterans. Once we take the uniform off, I interview veterans and we talk about transition and what they've gone through. And I also have one more. It's called Aces 53. When I was in college, one of my instructors told me to remember 4 aces and a joker. It was a thing for sales. ACES stands for attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, and smile, what you bring to the table in sales. The joker is that unique ability that you have that maybe you've learned or something you have naturally. When I sold by the phone for 18 years, I had no idea I had a deep, and that was my natural ability because I had more things come back and packages come back than anybody else. I'd send stuff. This is back in the mortgage industry where we have to FedEx your stuff overnight to get you to sign stuff. I'd have 89% of my packages come back and I'd close 90% of those. The closest person to me was 40. And so those are the podcasts I do. So I stay a little busy with my podcasts. Plus I also run a mortgage company.
Wow.
Oh, so you run the mortgage company?
It's my mortgage company. Yeah.
I missed that piece.
No, I seen that. I did. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you don't sleep very much within a 24-hour period.
Well, what happened, I had for the longest time, I had a lot of assistants and also people helping with my podcast, editing and everything else. And then when things got really ugly this last year, I took the podcasting stuff over to see how I wanted to do. Because unless you do the stuff yourself and edit it yourself, figure out how you want it, you don't really know what the job entails, right? You have to do it for yourself first and then hand it off. And so I took it back, and taking it back, I found a couple different softwares with AI. One was called Opus Pro or Opus Clips, and you can drop your video in there and it cuts it up in shorts. It does everything for you. There's another program called 𝐾𝐨𝐬𝐵 where you can drop your video in there and it'll edit, it'll transcribe it. It'll make all the titles for you, all the keywords, you name it. Have you ever heard of these? Either of these two?
I've heard of Opus Clips.
I heard of that one. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, the 𝐾𝐨𝐬𝐵 would be like when you want to do, it would transcribe the show. It would give you the titles potentially you could choose for the show. It would give you the introduction, tell you everything we talked about. And also then it'll give you hashtags. It will also give you whatever else you want. And I do a lot of lives where I pre-record them. So it also gives me a pre-show, which says, this is what's going to happen, even though it already happened. It's stuff you can do to make your life so much easier. Because I used to pay people to do my website and do all the other stuff too, and create my little quick page, which was $50 an episode. Now it's done by me just dropping the stuff into 𝐾𝐨𝐬𝐵. It's already there, copy paste. It's done.
𝐾𝐶_magic.
I'm like, you got so much information.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I've been podcasting for a while. In 2008, my radio show, in order to get it from the local airwaves here, 51 to 71,000 listeners, I also dropped it as a podcast to get people to come over to the other side. And that's how I started podcasting.
Well, Ed, we really.
I'm sure glad we left this for a half hour, huh?
Yeah, I know.
We did, but it was.
We're good. My wife went to the cabin, so we're good.
Oh, good. But you are like a walking encyclopedia.
Yes.
You had information. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And we're so sorry we kept you too long.
You're good. Don't worry about it. I'm not worried about it. This is what I do for a living. It's only 5 o'clock in my place. I would still be working anyway. And plus I got to do probably about 3 more loans I have to go through and fix certain things.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. At least now, if we ever go back to buy another house, I'm going to have to find it.
Yeah.
Or I'll find somebody who does it like I do for you, since I don't do Texas, but I can. Yeah, please buy my book. And if it works, let me know. And then if you need it, if you're teaching a group of people or whatever, I'll send you them. I can send you author copies.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, Ed, thank you so much.
Thank you.
No problem. Don't run away when we're done.
No, don't worry.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
Yes.
Because the information that you had, I'm not going to get on the soapbox. People need to hear it and people need to know it. There's credit card information, the reverse mortgage.
Just mortgage, period.
Yes.
Yeah. So
the shared
all of this
equity.
I never heard that one. Shared equity, all of that. So thank you, Ed, for
all that.
Thank you. So have a wonderful afternoon. Okay.
All right. You too.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
I know that you enjoyed the information that was presented to us by Ed. He is a mortgage expert. if you're in the process of buying a home, I hope that you had your notepad out and took some notes. And if you didn't, go back and listen to the podcast, because he gave excellent information on buying your home, even if you're a first-time home buyer,
Yes.
or even if you're a senior in retirement and you're looking at a way at staying in your home. This podcast is it.
Yes.
So if you enjoyed the content, we ask that you share, subscribe, and like, and we will see you next Thursday.
See you then.